Hello, and welcome to No Huddle Necessary. I'm your host, Jeff Barnes, once again with another week where our nuts and bolts sports writers debate the issues. All right, and first, coming to you live from the Mountain Time Zone, we have a returning champion, Keith Richards, the man with the most famous name on the staff. How are you?
Does it count as returning? I mean, I missed last week.
Yeah. Well, you won before, so you get
All
to defend the title since
I'm not going to fight you over that.
You know, and since, like I said, the most famous name on the staff, reason being, if you don't know Keith Richards, here's a reminder for everybody. All right, so there you go. All right, so, and speaking of which, all right, it's gonna be a little different tonight, being that normally we have three panelists. We are down one panelist tonight, so it's gonna be more of a shootout between two panelists tonight. All right, so the show soldiers on, and before I bring him in, of course, we're going to talk about the prodigy of the group. We're talking about the young Thomas Brown.
What's going on, everybody? I think I would take a different approach by being a little bit more quiet with the trash talk. I see where I got me last time, so I'm going to just stick to my natural path. There you go.
Well, I see you toned it down a bit. You brought on the Ohio State colors this week. So, you know, and they're in our topics this week. So we're going to have some fun with this tonight. So, of course, you get 4 minutes to make your arguments. And a little different, since there's one less person, I'm going to dig into your arguments a little longer, and we're going to have a little more fun with this. So, with that being said, it's time to get started. And we're going to start off with our first quarter topic. All right, so first quarter question. All right. As we saw this week, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 said, we're out for the fall. We'll try again in the spring. This coronavirus stuff is too much for us. It's not safe. You know, we want to make our money, but you know what? For the safety of the players and our reputation, we're taking the fall off. All right. So we talked about last week with, players opting out, smaller conferences like the MAC pushing to the spring. Now you have Power 5 conferences joining the fray of pushing back to the spring. What's next for college football at this point? And this time we're going to start it off with the prodigy, Thomas Brown. Thomas, start us off.
Well, I'm definitely all for them looking towards the spring as an avenue. I just think, this is territory that they do not have a plan for. They are not ready for. And I think that's something to look into as far as having a spring season instead of trying to do something for the fall. There's too many students. There's too many people involved to try to control to try to center everybody into one specific spot. It's not like the NBA where you have a bubble where you can have a certain limit as far as the amount of teams that can come and play and things of that nature. There's a whole lot more going on with college football. And I personally think that I wouldn't do anything until you are allowed to bring in students and staff into universities first. If you're not safe and comfortable in doing that in that regard, why should I, be comfortable watching kids play college football? You know, if it's uncomfortable for them to allow this stuff to happen, as far as allowing kids to come to universities and things of that nature, then I'm not gonna feel comfortable with letting them play in the with the fall season. I would give it a break and see what's available for the spring. Um, but if not, I would I would definitely aim for next fall and see what that may open up, because quite frankly, the curve hasn't stopped. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's still there. And I think that's something that people are not taking as much lightly, because they're kind of watching what other leagues are doing and things of that nature. Well, like I said earlier, you have to take into consideration all different parts. And so, with that being said, if I were to be the NCAA, I would either looking to see what spring has to offer. Maybe things are a little bit better by then. I'll be a little bit more comfortable, or just wait until next fall.
All right. So playing devil's advocate, right? We've seen
Okay.
it now. Although we've seen Major League Baseball, they don't have a bubble, but the NBA and NHL do. Even with the NFL teams, with those players are in a controlled environment so far, you had your early positive test cases, and then the numbers have gone down. Even with colleges, they had this big explosion of cases when the kids first came to campus,
Yep.
and recently the numbers are gone down. And so far, they're saying there's not going to be any students right now coming back to campus, unless certain colleges are allowing them. Even then, if do you risk it? Because right now the SEC is saying, well, we got it under control. ACC, we got it under control. You know, the American, we got it under control. The Big Ten and Pac-12 said no. But so far, there are actually sports now, even with baseball, they had it under control until a couple of guys got out and broke their own individual quarantine and
Yep.
set the things in motion. So if they're able to control it, why not? You know, because that's what we're saying now is we can't control it. You know, but so far they've kept it under control. So why not?
Well, there's two ways you can look at it in that regard, right? Um, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of, literally not too long ago, you had a schedule, and now we having conferences, not teams, conferences backing out of starting the college football season. I think that's something to take lightly. Like, this isn't NCAA football 14, the demo where only you can pick a few teams to choose from, and that's it. Like, I feel like there's a reason why everybody would like to play, because they see what everybody else is doing. They see what the NBA, NHL, and they see what they're doing, right? Here's the thing. Um, NBA has a great commissioner in Adam Silver. NHL has a plan. NFL, we're not even sure what they want to do, but they're still planning on figuring things out. I'm not even sure if they have a plan just yet. NCAA, they don't have a plan. So what I always like to say is that if you don't have a plan, why take the risk? If you don't have anything to put in place where you could control the environment, oh, okay, if this person gets a positive case, where do we put him to quarantine for this amount of days? Um, what is the schedule going to look like? How are we going to change the ramifications in regards to how we play the game and things of that nature? If there's too many questions surrounding that and you can't find any answers for them, then there's no need to rush into a season that you're not ready to have. So I think you would have to take that into consideration, as far as, you know, is there a true plan in place, and would everybody be able to buy in? Because if people aren't able to buy in, and there's people opting out left and right, there's conferences opting out left and right. Not only is that money, but now you're putting yourself in question as far as who's in power. Because if the person in power doesn't know what's going on and just trying to freelance everything, that's going to make the whole brand look bad. So I think that's something to take in consideration as a whole.
All right. Keith, you're up.
I think we first touched on this topic. I can't remember if it was the first or second episode that I was on, but the NCAA is all about that cream. Cash rules everything around me. And they got a serious issue on their hands. You have two of five power conferences that don't want to play. I mean, you can make the argument that the three bigger conferences are still there: ACC, SEC, and Big 12. But you can't truly say you have a national champion if you're going to have a season played where almost half of your major conferences don't play. I mean, that opens it up for mid-majors, but everyone knows no one wants to see that. And you look at the distribution of where the conferences are from. Pac-12, Big Ten, you got West Coast, super liberal, and you have some of the Midwest, which is moderate to liberal, politically speaking. It's the South versus everyone else. The South is going to do what they want to do. And even within the South and the ACC, you have contention with a player going at Trevor Lawrence saying that they don't think he should be the voice of NCAA football. So even in the conferences where they're going to be playing, you don't even have a consensus of when they should play and how they should play. It's just they have a mess on their hands. And you would think the one brand of sports, the NCAA, that almost invented the bubble environment with March Madness, could figure out something where they can get these teams and conferences playing in a somewhat controlled environment, and they have absolutely nothing but we have good protocols and we'll be fine.
All right. So, once again, playing devil's advocate. All right. And I'm glad you brought this up. And actually, I'm going to add Thomas to this because this is something both of you guys can score some extra points on this argument. All right. So, in this case, you mentioned it. Let's say things stay as they are. The American, the ACC, and the SEC all play their conference schedules in the fall. And out of that, you get a team that's undefeated. Then you come back to the spring, and you get a team out of the Big Ten. Ohio State goes undefeated. All right. And don't beat me up in the Twitter comments, Joe. I know that burns your ear saying Ohio State, but all right. So you have two undefeated teams in two separate parts of the year. Now can you have a national championship as far as doing a playoff format with somebody who hasn't played in 4 or 5 months versus somebody who just finished playing? Is that a true national championship? So is it even worth trying to crown a champion if you wind up having the two separate seasons? All right. So since Keith was finishing up, we're going to start this up with you. So is it worth doing that? Is it just say, listen, why would you say you get conference champions and leave it at that? Or do you try to play this national championship?
It's not worth it. I don't think, in my opinion. I guarantee they will try to figure out a way to make it work because it's the NCAA. I mean, but really you have to think about player safety in this standpoint. Like you said, there's going to be players that haven't played for months. And then if you finish in the spring football, then you have players that are still going to be running into the NFL draft. How many players are actually going to play in the championship and risk blowing out their knee and missing out on $40 million? I guarantee I wouldn't. But they shouldn't. But again, it's the NCAA. I guarantee they're going to try to make something work like that.
All right, Thomas. Do you think it'd be worth it?
No. It wasn't worth it before you asked the question. It's not worth it now. Look, you okay. You get a team that has been laying off just like everybody else for 5 months. Okay, they get conference champions. All right, and then we have a whole separate season where we, like you said, there's someone else that rises up and goes undefeated, and they face each other. Last time I checked, I think everybody's dedicated to having their fair share of reps before a big time game, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Um I'm pretty sure that team that just showed up with that undefeated record, I think that's this thing called advantage. They would have the advantage over the team that had to take that little layoff break and wait until whoever was getting hot in the fall to be like, yo, you know what? I think we can do it. We can play against these guys. But of course, of course, we're going to give the NCAA options because, like you said, they're going to find a way to do it. I know they are. They're all about the cachet, and that's fine. Just know that that we do have players that are trying to look for their draft stock. They're looking to see how their safety is. Um, let's see how the whole process goes in general because it's a new process for everybody to experience and go through. That's too much going on. I It's not worth it from the standpoint that you have too many working parts working against you, and you would have to take that into consideration given the fact that it is the NCAA working against the people that are making the brand, the players. Good luck with that.
Yeah, and the one thing we haven't brought up yet either is if they're going to go with an all-conference schedule, as much as every conference likes to think they're the steak and gravy, not every conference is super deep. What differentiates teams when it comes to whether you have the BCS or the college football playoffs, whatever you want to do, is the non-conference opponents that they play. So you can easily have four teams that run their conference schedule, but they're also probably going to play 4 or 5 crap teams in that process.
Well, it seems right now that everybody's doing the conference plus one. So that's what it looks like right now. Everybody's sticking to that, and you have three of those 5 conferences still left. Actually 4. Like I said, the American, and I didn't say the Big 12. Shame on me for forgetting the Big 12 of all people. All right. So, as Trebek says, that's it. We're moving on. All right. So, second quarter question. All right. We're talking that team in Washington. Oh boy, it's been a tumultuous few months for that team in Washington. And we can go down the list of things that have happened, and none of them have been impressive, other than drafting Chase Young. So the latest has been their bust of a running back draft pick in Darius Geis. As you know, he's been arrested for domestic violence and some very brutal allegations by his live-in girlfriend. So brutal that honestly, I believe he has 2 major felony counts against him. So, other than Greg Hardy, I don't think we've seen too many this heinous, but nevertheless, another black guy for this organization, and we can't even call him by the old name anymore, thank goodness. But nevertheless, I mean, where does this leave Washington now? What else can go wrong for Washington? And this time, Keith's going to start us off.
It's not funny. It's terrible. But if there was anything to prove how badly Dan Snyder needs to sell this team, you have a perfect example. It might even be more brutal than what Greg Hardy did. The only thing that stops me from saying it's the most brutal thing a player has done is I think of Ray Caruth, who played for the Panthers, I think it was back in the day, who killed his wife and almost killed his unborn son. I mean, he's being charged with strangling his girlfriend until she was unconscious. It just shows like how far the NFL still has to go in terms of domestic violence, how far the country still has to go in terms of domestic violence. I mean, it really is a terrible situation, and it just is for the Washington football team the icing on the cake. I mean, if there was anything that could be any worse for them to make their year look better than it already was, here comes this running back to fulfill that quota for him. I don't know what else they can do with that team instead of tear it down completely and build it back up from a new foundation. They have nowhere to go but up, I would say, but they keep finding ways to get down further than they were before. So they just got to blow it up. That's the only thing they can do at this point.
Gotcha. So, what about Geis? What do you think happens with him now at this point? I mean, because you look at it, he's been a failure on the field, right? You know, it's been injuries. When he has played, he's had some okay performances here and there, but nothing up to the level of quality where he was drafted. I know when I scouted him, I had a very high opinion of him. So it's one of those things you look at him and go, okay, what do we do now? I mean, granted, he's done as far as I don't think you can come back from this. There's no way that he comes back from this. But as far as, I mean, we've seen stranger things happen. Greg Hardy got a second chance, and we know how egregious the charges against Greg Hardy were. All right, so what happens with him now?
I mean, let's keep it a buck. If you've got talent, you will get another chance in the NFL. Look at Greg Hardy. You look at Josh Gordon. You can look at a host of other players. If you can play and they think you can play, someone like Jerry Jones will sign you. But in his case, is there anything worth trying to like get from that? I mean, innocent until proven guilty. He still has to face a trial. But if it is found that he is guilty, which all indications say that he will be, it's not like a Michael Vick case where he can serve time in jail and be contrite. I mean, not to say what Michael Vick did was not as bad. He still did something pretty terrible, but it's pretty hard to show contrition for what he did. And to top it off with, he was a disappointment as far as talent goes. That's just a nail in the coffin for him. He has no talent. He has a terrible charge against him. No team is going to want to touch him after that.
All right. Thomas, tell us how you feel about this.
Okay. I would like to start off with the fact that it made me very, 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 very touched to hear that Darius Geis, out of all people, is a bust. Okay. Drafted in 2018. Okay. He was the 7th running back selected in his own draft class. Okay. He missed his rookie year due to a torn ACL. He's played 5 games altogether, 245 yards altogether, 2 touchdowns. What are they missing? What are they missing? They still got Adrian Peterson, right? Like you know, in terms of production, you're not going to miss anything from Darius Geis, okay? And it's sad that his career, if we're really thinking about it, has come to an end very abruptly. Um, and and honestly, we all, no matter whether you're a fan of the team or not, you cannot justify his wrongdoings, and wrong is wrong. Um, and so when you look at it from the standpoint that yet this is another blemish on a team that just they just they just can't stop, can they? Um, Daniel Snyder has proven that he has no problem holding a lot of things under the carpet. Sexual allegations. Oh, I know it happened just then, but I have no idea what's going on. We'll swipe it under the rug. It never happened. And then the moment a woman brings it up, oh, we we need to look back at that and see what we did wrong so we could figure out what we need to do and adjust accordingly. Um, it's a continuous trend with them, and obviously we know it starts at the top. And granted, if we're going to be fair, let's be fair. They when it came to this guy situation, they handled it very very quickly, very swiftly. In terms of releasing him, letting him go, uh, and not not holding it back whatsoever. But I don't think that was more of a Snyder move. If you want me to be honest, I think that was more of a Rivera move because he's trying to change the culture over there. But uh, in terms of where the team goes from here, I mean, nowhere but up. But like Keith said, they just keep going further and further, further down the hole. And I'm not surprised whatsoever because if leadership is going to keep putting them in that position time and time again by not holding people accountable, not holding himself accountable, um, not maintaining a culture in DC. Why should it bother me? Why should it affect a fan of theirs? Why should it mean anything if they're not going to do anything about it? So as far as guys, I think he's done. Um, uh, this is not an Antonio Brown situation where you're questioning, do I take his talent over the years over what he's done recently as far as what he's done with management? This is not that type of situation. And I'm not the type of guy to compare bad things to bad things because regardless, wrong is wrong, wrong is wrong. And when it comes to guys, he couldn't produce, can't stay healthy, um, and now he has some charges against him, and we're talking about him having another shot down the line. It ain't happening. I'm sorry, hate to break it to you. I don't care how many apology videos you decide to bring up or whatever. It's not going to change anything. Um, and as far as the team itself, if it starts at the head and the head ain't doing what it's supposed to do, the rest of the body is not going to follow suit. So there's that.
Well, I think you guys definitely hit on the nail on the head when we're talking about it. It starts with the top of the organization and what's going on in Washington. And we talked about it in the past when everything started happening and everything started coming out in the open. It starts at the top. There were structural issues in that organization that were supposed to protect people that weren't there. The people up at the top were encouraging the behavior that was happening, and it's no shock that it's out of control. It's the heinous act that he perpetrated in his home should not have happened. It shouldn't happen. And unfortunately, when it comes to football, it's real easy to see it because these guys are always in the limelight. But the fact of the matter is, it needs to go away in our society altogether. And I agree. There should be no more chances after this. It usually don't say, well, one shot, you're done. But you know what? In this case, we're trying to get rid of that, and giving you a shot isn't going to happen anymore. Good luck with the rest of your life would be my response if I was an owner. I think we're done with that stuff. We're done with that. This wasn't the case of a heated argument and you pushed each other. You strangled somebody until they passed out. That only should happen in an MMA ring. So that should not happen in an argument in your house. Okay, so yeah, I think we're totally done with that. I think that they just give him to Willy Wonka, good day to you, sir, and move on. So, and speaking of moving on, so NFL is full of families. We could talk about all the different family connections in the NFL, but we're going to talk about a specific pair. And you can say there's more than two in one family, but right now we're going to talk about specifically one in particular. All right. Thank you, Ashmere. We're correcting each other. um, so let's talk about pass rushing families. All right. Everybody knows who JJ and TJ Watt are, and everybody knows who Joey and Nick Bosa are. All right. So, which family, in your opinion, has the better pair of pass rushers? Okay. So, Thomas, you're going to start us off this time. Who's the better pass rushing family?
I like being young. I'm pretty sure you enjoyed your younger days. I'm pretty sure Keith enjoyed his younger days too.
Not all
Okay.
my decisions, but I definitely enjoyed the days.
Oh, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. We all can agree to that. So with that, I will take the Bosa brothers. All right. We're talking about a young crop of future superstars, if not stars already on their defenses. Um, as far as Joey Bosa, I would like to list his stats for you, okay? 67 combined tackles. He assisted on 20 of them, 11 and a half sacks. And other than the 2018 season, he has had double digit sacks. That is Joey Bosa. All right. And by the way, these are the stats from this past season. All right. We're going to move over to Nick Bosa. By the way, this is his rookie season, his rookie year. Last season was his rookie year. 47 combined tackles, assisted on 15 of them, 9 sacks, 1 interception. The combination, Bosa brothers, 114 tackles, 20 and a half sacks. I think I'll take that any day of the week. All right. I'm pretty sure it gives quarterbacks a lot to think about when they have to study against defenses that involve the two of them. But I'm gonna be fair. So I would like to bring up the Watt brothers. Let's bring up their statistics on last season. Now, granted, JJ Watt, he played only 8 games because of the tricep injury. So his numbers are they are very few. They're very low. 24 tackles, assisted on 9 of them, 4 sacks. He has won Defensive Player of the Year 3 times. Okay, but that's all resume. All right, I just wanted to add that in there just to make him feel better. All right, I love JJ Watt, but we'll keep it moving. TJ Watt, his stats on last season: 55 combined tackles. He assisted on 20 of them, 14 and a half sacks, 2 interceptions, and he's just 25 years old. Now with TJ, I feel like he has you can you can vision him as a pass rusher because of the sacks, but at the end of the day, let's all agree he is a linebacker because of the type of defense that the Steelers bring to the table where they have to move him around and play in, play out. Um, JJ Watt, he stays in one spot, and he's very effective when he's on the field. But I'm taking into consideration who would I take as far as consistency and health and production. And in that case, I would take the Bosa brothers, where it's not just me that's saying that they would take them. I know people don't want to agree with the list because, man, I can't stand it. I mean, Carson Wentz is not on it. But I would like to also refer to the top 100 list that the players voted on. And so with TJ Watt, his top 100 rating was 25. Awesome. Hooray. Okay. JJ Watt, his top 100 rating, 45. Hooray. All right. That's actually good given the fact that he only played 8 games. Um, Nick Bosa, 17. That is the highest defensive rookie ever on that list. Okay. This is not me. This is the players. Okay. They came up with this list, not me. All right. This is just them. This is not me. I'm just reading the facts here. All right. Joey Bosa, his rating 34. Now, sure, I think the Texans can get a few years out of JJ. Um, but I also think the injuries will continue to pile up and it'll have an effect, given the fact that more offensive lines would continue to triple team and double team, whatever the case may be, to try to get him out of the game. TJ Watt, he'll try to he'll hold the fort with the brothers because of his age and how dynamic he is, not just as a linebacker in coverage, but as a pass rusher as well. But in terms of just pure game breakers, like you have to pay attention to that guy. I would lean more towards the Bosa brothers because all it takes is one sack and they could ruin the entire game. So I would take the Bosa brothers as far as having the better pass rushing family.
All right. Keith, your turn.
So this is a question where phrasing truly matters. If you're looking at it in a sense of overall historically, which two are the best, you have to go with the Watt brothers simply because of J.J. Watt and what he's already accomplished in the league. I mean, if you combine J.J. Watt's stats of his career, T.J. Watt's stats of their career, they've combined for 48 forced fumbles, 130 and a half sacks, 194 tackles for loss. Absolutely, the lion's share of that is J.J. Watt. But if you scale it back to when T.J. Watt came in the league, which was 2017, they've only combined for 22 forced fumbles, 54 and a half sacks, and 58 tackles for loss. And a lot of that is pretty even. T.J. Watt hasn't been in. J.J. Watt's missed some time, but it's pretty even. But if you phrase it in the sense of who do I want moving forward, absolutely, I want the Bosa brothers. Joey Bosa's played, I think, 3 or 4 seasons. Nick Bosa 1 season. They've already combined for 6 forced fumbles, 49 sacks, 69 tackles for loss. I mean, when you compare them in the sense of when T.J. Watt came in the league and the Bosa brothers, there's definitely a lot more promise with the Bosa brothers than you have the Watt brothers. To pull out my nerd hat a little, I kind of look at it as like the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC in the late 90s with boy bands. Absolutely, Backstreet Boys together were the better boy band. But NSYNC had that one piece that was better than the rest of the other groups, and that's J.J. Watt. Or they had Justin Timberlake. And that one piece in this comparison is J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt is probably, I ain't going to say probably, I would say in his prime, the best player out of all 4 of those players. But if you want to play them together, you can't really play T.J. Watt and J.J. Watt together effectively because of what Thomas said. One plays linebacker, one moves back into that one defensive lineman spot. We've seen with Nick and Joey Bosa that you can move them all over the field. Well, maybe not all over the field, but in different positions on the defensive line so that you can plug them into the game at the same time. They're much more versatile. They're younger. It's just if you're going to talk about who you want moving forward, it's the Bosa brothers. If you're talking about historically, it's the Watt brothers only because of what J.J. Watt accomplished when he was in his prime.
You know, it's interesting because if you look at the 2 tandems of brothers, you look at what Nick Bosa did coming in. You look at what J.J. Watt did coming in. Both of these guys were immediate impact players. And last few years, injuries have kind of slowed them down. But then again, if we look at the Bosa family, they've always had injuries slow them down. And I think what you look at with the younger brothers of the 2 have been on fire since they've gotten the league. But only one of those 4 has led their team to a Super Bowl. So you have to look at that also and say, maybe the Bosa boys are just that much better. I don't know. J.J. Watt is a bad man, and honestly, I don't know any more fans that are sicker watching TJ Watt getting a sack than Dallas Cowboy fans because they decided to take Taco Charlton over him. So think about that's something we talked about before going on the air. Bad picks by the Cowboys that came back to bite them in the behind. Think about them watching that man get sacks every year, and they were sitting there with Taco Charlton. Okay, so think about that one. And speaking of which, we're going to move on to our all right. So fourth quarter. All right. All the marbles, fellas, all the marbles. We're getting down to it. We're going to have a winner soon. And with that being said, we're going to talk about right now a future Hall of Famer. All right. That being number 12 of the Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers. All right. We know everything that's been going on. They drafted a rookie just like they drafted him when Favre was there. New coach. They don't exactly see eye to eye. Despite having a winning season, is it time to move on from A-Rod? All right. So this time, Keith, start us off.
So Aaron Rodgers is an interesting case. He's definitely one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. And I would say not even arguably, for sure, he is the most talented quarterback we've seen in the history of the NFL. The problem with Aaron Rodgers is that he has all these individual accolades and accomplishments, but whether we like it or not, NFL quarterback supremacy and where you're ranked at the end of your career is based on how many Super Bowls you won. Aaron Rodgers has only won one Super Bowl. And like you said, they did draft, I think it was Jordan Love with the Packers. And it's very similar to when Brett Favre was with the Packers and Aaron Rodgers sat for a couple of years. Only problem is, as much as Aaron Rodgers wants to say he's all about the Packers, I guarantee you in conversations he has at home with his family and his wife, he's also all about his legacy. And his legacy is not going to look as good as it could if he doesn't win at least one more Super Bowl. And he's getting up there in age, but I say he still has 3 to 4 really good seasons left in him, maybe 5 to 6 seasons where he can pull a Peyton last year in Denver and guide a team to the Super Bowl, just not screw it up. As much as the Chargers wouldn't want to let him go, or not the Chargers, the Packers wouldn't want to let him go, there's going to be teams that are going to throw a lot at the Packers if Aaron Rodgers resigns. If he doesn't resign, he's going to get top-notch NFL quarterback money thrown at him as well. As much as I would like to see him pull almost a Tom Brady and play for the same team his whole entire career, it's just not feasible. It's not possible. He is going to cost them too much to stay there with the quarterback that they drafted. And I think personally, he has a lot on his chest, on his shoulders that he still has to prove. And he's not going to prove that in Green Bay. His time in Green Bay is done, I think.
All right. Thomas, tell us how you feel about this.
I would like to quote a fairly famous man. And that man would say that Aaron Rodgers, he's a bad man, right? The last time we saw Aaron Rodgers on that field, appreciate you, Stephen A. He led the Packers to the NFC Championship game, and granted, it was very messy. All right. He went 31 for 39. He had 326 yards passing. He had a 79.5 completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a ridiculously low QBR in 21.9, but yet he had a 97.2 passer rating. Okay. I would like to mention that Aaron Rodgers is 36 years old. Okay. The man is under contract until 2023. By then, Rodgers will be 40. I think around that time, Jordan Love will be starting, if not relishing in the fact that he will not have Rodgers in his shadows. Okay. But let's just exclude all that for a second. Let's just take his whole entire season as a whole. 62 percent completion percentage. I'm sorry. 4,002 yards passing, 26 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions, 95.4 QBR. Oh, and oh, by the way, it's not like he doesn't have any scrubs to work with. Sure, you could say that the Packers didn't help him out as far as giving him weapons in the draft. I'm one of those people. Yes, you needed to get him some more help, but he does have one of the best receivers in Devontae Adams. Okay, he will burn somebody for 135 yards in his sleep. Okay, you have a star running back in Aaron Jones who has no problem getting you 4.5 yards per carry. Okay, he has no problem balancing you out in terms of what you do in the passing game, and being able to be that force as far as getting touchdowns also. Um, and he has a better defense than what his than years prior. Um, and by the way, if I am a part of the Green Bay Packers front office, I would actually hang on to him for 2 more years. 2 more years. You give Jordan Love enough time to develop, learn under Aaron Rodgers altogether. Um, Give him time to feel comfortable. Yes, I'm bringing up a lot of Jordan Love because he will end up taking the reins for A-Rod. Okay, and at the end of the day, you would have him feel completely comfortable with the offense with Matt LaFleur and what he's trying to do that maybe he's not able to do with A-Rod. Okay, fine. Um, the reason why I say 2 years for Aaron Rodgers is because in 2 years he will be 38. Um, and by the way, that money that was on that extension from uh, a few years back or so, with the 4 year extension, that money will continue to wane. And he'll start exploring his options. If not him, it will be the front office. And like Keith said, they will continue to throw different packages to try to get him to come to their squad. And I don't blame them. But just don't be surprised if you hear something along the lines of Aaron Rodgers gets a lot of money because of what he's done over the years, and he's going to be our quarterback for the next 2 years. And also, don't be surprised if the production that you've been getting from him in Green Bay does not show up in wherever your next team is, because quite frankly, age it sometimes it is like fine wine, sometimes it's not. All right. And sometimes, we had to take in consideration that Aaron Rodgers is still he didn't break off, like he didn't suffer anything. Okay, it's just that we're entering a time where it's a little bit uncomfortable for him, but I think he can deal with it for at least a couple years before he starts thinking about, what, okay, I think I've done enough. All right, let me see what's off. What's more out there for me in terms of money, in terms of production, and possibly getting me to another Super Bowl. Can't blame him for that one.
All right, Keith. All right, so your thoughts on this one?
Well, I guess just a rebuttal.
Yeah.
I went first. But I mean, I think what Thomas says is right. He only has a couple more good years. I said I think he has 3 or 4 really more good years. Not Tom. I want to say Tom Brady because I don't know why I hate Tom Brady. But Aaron Rodgers is not stupid. the Packers are not stupid. The Packers will get so much more for him in this season or next season than they would if they held on to him for 2 or 3 more seasons. Aaron Rodgers, though I'm sure he's not about the money, he's going to get a lot more money from a team now than he would if he's 38, 39, 40 years old. And like I said, I'm not a Packers fan, but I love watching Aaron Rodgers play with the Packers. I mean, he's done some amazing things on Lambeau Field with the Packers, but there comes to a time where you got to remember football is a business. And the best business decision is for Aaron Rodgers to move on and for the Packers to move on, because you don't want to risk to where you get nothing for him. I mean, you'll take his salary off the books, but you won't get any draft picks that you would now. You won't get any players that you would now. So I think you just have to strike what iron is hot.
Thomas, so if you're the Packers GM, you're looking at the situation. All right, you've got this older veteran who, let's say, continues to play well for the life of this contract. You don't really have a performance reason to bench him. What do you do? Because now you're going to have, when you get to 2023, you're going to start to get to that time to pick up the 5th-year option for Love, right? And you're getting to the point where you have to re-sign Rodgers or let him go. You tell me what you do.
Well, given the fact that you give scenarios that are dreamlike scenarios, that's fine. Okay. But I'll work with it. What I would do is I would sit down with Aaron. I'd be like, hey man, you've brought us a lot of good things over the years, division titles. You brought a Super Bowl to Lambeau. You've brought MVP over. You've done a lot by us, and we appreciate you for what you've done this past season. But we got to make a decision that would benefit the future of the Packers, not, maintaining what we have in the bottle. Because me being a Packers GM, I do not think it would be a smart idea to re-sign a 40-year-old quarterback to try to use up all of his production, and you just give up on Love, where he might end up torching your defense for years to come, because you decided that, let me use up all of Rodgers while we can, and let's see what happens. I feel like I would go with Love. I would start with Love. I'll be like, look, Aaron, if benching is uncomfortable, that's fine. We have no problem, taking you out somewhere. We can trade you somewhere if you want to. And I'll even go as far as to say, you know what, you've done so good by us, I'll let you pick your destination. I'm not going to guarantee anything, but because of what you've done for us over the years, we will see what we can do as far as granting that wish. But that's just wishful thinking. So we'll have to see. I just think Aaron Rodgers by 40. I mean, what are you gonna really get out of him? You're definitely not gonna get 4 interceptions again. You're definitely not gonna get that QBR again. You're not gonna get that many yards. And I also think the dynamic of Aaron Jones and in the defense would help balance that out. It might, cause for him to not produce as much because he doesn't have to.
All right. Well, I don't know about you guys, but you can't hear it, but you can definitely see it. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Buffer says we have a winner. All right. And with that being said, Keith, you disappointed me. You let an Eagles fan take it this week. So, and because an Eagles fan won this week, I have to put this up.
I had to throw him a little bone. They don't get to praise him. He only got 1 Super Bowl win.
What was that? What was that, Keith? I couldn't hear you.
I had to give him something. They only got 1 Super
I'm sorry, I couldn't let you finish because you let the Eagles fan win, Keith. I'm sorry, but don't go anywhere. You're coming back. So, with that being said, Thomas Brown, claim your FaceTime.
All right, everybody, boys and girls. I appreciate y'all enjoying the show. I'm pretty sure y'all had a wonderful time seeing a rightful winner this week. Okay. I would just like to take the time out to give credit to Adam Silver. I know this is an NFL show, but I like giving greatness due where greatness is due. I appreciate Adam Silver for having a plan in terms of having the NBA bubble and how successful it is. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that's enjoying the action and appreciating the many uh, uh, things he's putting in place to make sure that there is a great season and that it benefits all parties. And man, I'm interested, man. And as far as the NFL season is concerned, Roger, hey buddy, uh, we got we got the season starts. I'm pretty sure fairly soon. I need to hear a plan, something, because I ain't hear much. Talk to me when you get a chance. I know you don't have my number, but let's figure it out. That's all I got.
All right. So, you know, you've joined the ranks of the winners now, and Keith, I'm not going to let you live this one down. You know, people don't understand my hatred for the Eagles, and my only hatred for the Eagles comes from one game, and it's because of Buddy Ryan. Really, it's because of Buddy Ryan. Buddy Ryan. Anybody doesn't know the Bounty Bowl on Thanksgiving Day, where he went after everybody on the Cowboys, including the kicker. All right. So ever since then, I've hated the Eagles with a passion. I didn't care. I didn't like them before that. I hated them since Buddy Ryan. So by all means, that is one team. If they win, I am miserable because every time that they do something good, I think of Buddy Ryan. I see his face in that ugly green cap with the eagle spread across the front of it. And no. So
He's also got the body bag game under his belt as well.
He's got a bunch of stuff. Buddy Ryan was not exactly a nice guy, and I can tell you from people that knew him, he was not a nice guy. But regardless what his friends will tell you. But nevertheless, guys, once again, you guys put on a great show tonight. You guys got the extra time because unfortunately we had a late cancellation on us. But nevertheless, you guys did well, man. And once again, I'll be happy to have you guys back on. I'll duke it out some more. You're both winners now, so we got to add you to the winner's circle. No belt. There's no Nick Cannon belt on this show. So, but nevertheless, all right, you guys, once again, great job. Final thoughts.
Just since we've been doing the show, did you see who the Cowboys added to their defensive line?
Yes, I did.
That is absolutely insane.
He better be in shape because they got a lot of pass rushes. That's a lot of dudes trying.
You got Marcus Lawrence, Alden Smith, Randy Gregory as he's reinstated. Who else did they just add?
Danielle Hunter.
Someone else I'm thinking. Yeah, I think he's the nose tackle. It's going to slip my mind now.
Oh, you're thinking
Terry Poe, Gerald McCoy.
Yeah, Gerald McCoy.
And they drafted people.
I mean, they have
Bradley and I. Yeah, there's so many people on that front. That defensive line meeting room has to look like a subway car in New York.
Yeah, and then they have good linebackers as well with Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith. And even good old, what's his name? I can't remember his name now. Sean Lee. Is worth last year as well.
Yeah. And Monty wants to remind you guys that he was the first. Okay, just want to remind y'all that Monty Perez. And you can catch his show on Sundays. Yes, I'm doing a shameless plug for you, Monty. All right, he's on the Nuts and Bolts Sports Network, folks. All right, the full Monty. All right, he got sent to the back last week, by the way, guys. So Keith, you're not the only one. All right, so don't feel bad. All right, so I'm going to send you both to the back right now so I can close this out. But once again, great job again, guys. All right. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Once again, this has been No Huddle Necessary. We'll be back again next week, 9 o'clock, with more panelists looking to make their argument and see who claims the FaceTime. This is Jeff Barnes signing off for No Huddle Necessary.